Good morning. Hey, Willie.
Brother Sean, how are you?
Doing good. How are you doing, sir?
Oh, hold on. How's it going, bro?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. How you doing?
Doing good, man. Just making sure I got everything working where I need to work it.
Okay. All right. So I'll be in a session with you today.
Okay.
And so um, I can work your chat for you if you need me to. So I think that once you go full
Uh,
screen, I'm not sure if you're able to even see your chat. So I'll try to do my best to funnel questions.
okay.
If you
I appreciate it.
okay. All right.
I definitely appreciate it.
Okay.
How you been, man?
I've been doing pretty good. Let me turn my camera on.
That's good. And I was going to tell you too. I will be on the equity meeting call as soon as I can.
Okay.
I have a 9 o'clock another presentation at 9 o'clock tomorrow too.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So, and the only reason I'm having headphones going is I have a son, virtual school, a wife is pregnant, so
I didn't know
we
that. Okay.
I guess the light would be good. So we're gonna make it do what it do though, that it gets
Okay.
started here and all.
All right.
So and the way I probably do it, I probably never, if I understand it right, I came prepared for them to see my face, but I may keep it on that presentation. I'm just in one of those moves, man. Lakers
Yeah.
lost last night, so I'm just
Oh, you messed up. You all messed up.
yeah. But no,
um.
good,
All
good.
right. Let's see. I'm gonna real quick check. So I'm in the back stage part of the event. So when they come into the session, they'll see us both as presenters, but I'll turn my camera off. But for
Okay,
me and you to communicate, there's a backstage option where I can send you stuff directly that folks can't see, so it won't come through the chat. So I just want to make sure
okay,
that you can see it, just in the event there's some crazy glitch with the presentation. So I just sent you a message that says test.
I do not see.
So on the
And
right,
it
you're like
should
a
be
pane
on.
on the right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I see other chats. I see. Oh, I need to go to backstage.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the backstage will just show me the people that have backstage access. I should be able to see any message you send me there,
Well,
right?
okay. At the very top where it says "Hello, Willie," is there like a
Yeah.
bubble with a number in it?
No,
No.
no, there isn't. At the very top where it says "Hello, Willie," there's just that.
Okay.
There's not a bubble.
Okay. Gotcha. Hmm. Let's see. Try to send me a message if you would, Willie.
Do you get that?
I did not. People
Uh,
chat.
let's see here now. Yeah. Okay. You know what it is?
Yeah.
I can get your messages, but I have to go backstage and go individually to your name.
Mm-hmm.
Like you see me now, right? See where I said test back to you?
Let me get back in here and see. Chat backstage. Willie Thomas. Yep, I see it that way. Okay. Yeah, that's one of the things I don't particularly care for about this platform. So, okay. So in the event that something happens with a connection issue where the screen goes black or whatever, I'll try to talk with you this way.
Okay.
We probably won't have that. I'm trying to think, just trying to be, prepared in case something happens. Technology does its own thing.
Right.
Right. We needed not to do it.
Right.
So,
Right.
all right.
And I had to, for me, I had to kind of script my whole PowerPoint, man. Either I would have been too long or too short. So I think my goal is not to be too long. Hopefully, maybe roughly 30 minutes.
Okay.
And so, but they can see me, right?
They can see you. Yes.
Oh, okay. So when I start this live, and even though I'm sharing, my screen will be on the very top.
Yep.
Okay. Tomorrow I will use TBR's background. But I think I'm cool. I don't have nothing offensive behind me.
I think you'll be all right. I think you'll
All
be all
right.
right.
Yeah, like forgot the time. So I'll go live right at 10:15.
Okay. And then with the questions, do you want me to um you want them to wait to the end to talk, or how do you prefer them to kind of engage with you in conversation?
Oh, maybe wait till the end, and maybe I will. I'll state that at the beginning.
Okay. All right, good deal. I'm excited. This is going to be a shorter work week this week, so I'm really pumped about pumped
Oh,
about Thursday. I take off um, Thursday, Friday, and next Monday.
really? Are you going to go vacation somewhere?
Well, we're supposed to go to LA, but we're still kind of planning that. But honestly, I could stay in my house the entire time and not even go
Bro,
anywhere. I am
just
okay with that. I
chill.
just need life not to. I don't want to. Don't talk to me about
I,
nothing.
I'm with you. I'm with you. So
So,
today, um, uh, I was off. I'm do the same after PowerPoint. Oh, did you need me to moderate this afternoon? I never did get the information. Let me check.
if you so Deanna would have set that up. If she
It,
didn't reach out to you, then you're fine.
okay, praise the Lord.
I'm sorry, I thought she reached out to everybody. No, you're
I didn't
good.
mean to. Like, I'm gonna enjoy this afternoon, man. I
No,
just
you're good.
about
You're
good.
good.
I
Let's see. Uh-oh. There we go. All right, I'm gonna turn my screen off and mute
okay.
myself, but I'm here, so let me
All
know
right.
if you need.
Cool. Cool. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me in this discussion on how trauma affects African American men in higher education. First of all, I just want to tell you who I am. My name is Willie Thomas. I have the privilege of serving as Assistant to the President for Equity and Inclusion at Cleveland State Community College. And let's get started. The purpose of this study is personal for me. One of the reasons why it's personal for me is my father, while preaching one Sunday evening, suffered a stroke. And my childhood memories are that of more of a caregiver than just being a kid. I wasn't able to attend high school due to various family dynamics. These experiences caused me to lose something important to me, and that was my confidence. I fought against the stigma of being a school dropout. Even though I obtained a GED, I always felt inadequate to attend college. I was not a great writer then, and often I would avoid assignments that required extensive reading, research, and writing. When it came to classes such as math, I came very close to dropping out of school. And because I was a first generation college student, I couldn't find anyone to relate, no one to care. And the last place I felt I belonged was in a classroom environment. My family was suffering, and coming home from school with no lights or running water was an unwanted normality, or it was just an unwanted experience through my first 2 years of going to college. Stereotype threat, low self efficacy, and poverty were factors that traumatized me, not just as a kid, but throughout college. These factors are what led me to want to withdraw several times, and I isolate myself in college discussions and sometimes participate in practices that risk successful academic achievement. But I can also tell you that I experienced the grace that's been granted to me by faith, hope, and love. And my adult life has been serving in higher education so I can be an advocate for students and individuals who are dealing with issues that are beyond the classroom. So let's talk about our learning objective. The objective is to improve African American men's learning outcomes by fostering discussions and policies in higher education and offering an understanding and methods that create a connection that facilitates academic success. So when we use the term trauma, there's broad ways that we can go, but I'm gonna really kind of fine tune it in these type of aspects. Okay, so when I'm using potential traumatic events, I'm talking about powerful events that intrude someone's life. These events are life threatening, possibly cause a significant threat to the presence of a person, both physically and psychologically. And trauma, I'm defining it as a range of events that overwhelms an individual's coping capacities, involves threats of severe injury or death to someone or someone close to the individual. And also, for the purpose of this study, we're going to also talk about racial trauma. Okay. And when I'm talking about racial trauma, I'm referring to the mental and emotional injury caused by encounters with racial bias, ethnic discrimination, racism, and hate crimes. So, as we get started, the question may be asked, where does this come from? All right. So, we're going to use another term called traumatic stressors. And traumatic stressors, I'm going to kind of define direct traumatic stressors. And these are a person experiencing a direct traumatic stressor. Or I say it this way, a direct traumatic stressor may be the victim of individuals physically or verbal attacks or may face other microaggressions. So this is something that's happened to an individual directly. Vicarious traumatic stressors are, for instance, this summer watching the uh, uh, police brutality of George Floyd and other aspects. Those are vicarious traumatic stressors where I may not have been directly victimized by it, but because I viewed it, because I can actually identify or put myself there, that has caused a traumatic stressor. And then we're going to also kind of tie into transmitted stressors. In other words, these are stressors that are handed down by generation. And what I mean by that, it can be various family dynamics, it can be social economics, poverty situations that are handed down through African Americans, through just through the generations of where they come from. All right. So let's talk about the trauma of the African American male. All right. Uh, for African American males, traumatic experiences are often shaped by victimization and perceived danger related to violence and abuse on race. And this is something that Carl Reed actually defined. These the perceived threats may be real or perceived threats of harm and injury caused by direct or indirect experiences, such as police brutality and other humiliating and shameful events. The aggressors may be people from different race and ethnic backgrounds, religious and faith-based organizations from different genders, among others. Howbeit, these events created a permanent memory and can have a long-lasting impact on their self-perception and other experiences. And this study goes on to say that these stressors often triggered with consistent reminders through social media of perceived threats. Social media and television can be a powerful tool. And social media and television that depicts painful reminders that can trigger strong emotions in often these young African American students. It's worthwhile to note that not every African American watching incidents on television or social media is traumatized, but according to R.D. Daniels, some viewers develop phobias and a self-conscious that results in disengagement. Poverty conditions can also be a traumatic experience. The lack of food, living conditions, and even proper health care can be things that contributes to, for African American males, a traumatic experience. In a journal that was written by Burdick Will, he was questioning whether high crime rates had affected African American men in the classroom. And he argued that there was indeed a relationship between traumatic events and dysfunctional behavior in the class. In his study, he goes on to say that it's often expressed through emotional outbursts, acts of aggression, rage, and disconnection with the class within the classroom. Nevertheless, he said one of the struggles that takes place is a code of silence in the African American community. And let me speak to that. There is a code of silence within the African American culture in which people do not speak out about traumatic events, even when they're experienced. And as a result, there are some things that are transpiring, and even there may be some PTSD, post-traumatic stress, taking place that a lot of times go unknown or misunderstood or undiagnosed. Trauma and academic development. You know, trauma can be challenging for educators to address because students, particularly African American students, and I can speak on this being African American male, we do not express the distress that we are feeling in an easily recognizable way. And often African American students, particularly males, they mask their pain with behavior that is aggressive or off-putting. Studies have shown the effects of trauma have influenced African American decisions to even remain enrolled in college. In an article, Academic Achievement and College Persistence of African American Students by Boraz and Horn, that study found that African Americans who suffer from PSD symptoms while attending their first year of college were less likely to enroll in the senior year of college. The study also expressed to multiple traumas in childhood was associated with increased likelihood that Black Black students, and I will be using Black and African American students interchangeably just because I just got started, the increased likelihood of dropping out of college. So in their study, they connected that children, African American children that were exposed to trauma, there was an increased likelihood of them dropping out of college. Academic development is a key aspect in most schools because it focuses on improving the potential of students. Academic development assists students in building competencies. It helps them socially, it helps them personally, and respect to their career. One of the things that this study argued was that academic development helps students establish healthy relationships and associate with a positive impact on learning and on students. They argued that despite challenges such as limited resources in schools, educators should remain committed to ensuring that academic development to help that there is academic development to help students with their learning process in and outside of the school setting. In another article that was done by Banyer and Cantor, they explored the reasons for this disparity as relates to why was African American men having an issue with actually transitioning through school. This is something profound that they found. They found um, that students arriving on campus with historical exposure to traumatic events, these same survivors became part of an at-risk population for further victimization. And a victimized student, their paradigm would not spend time in school relating to fellow students who had no history of the trauma. In other words, that often in their study, African American males did not find a connection with other students that did not have similar experience or similar traumatized experience as they did. Whether that experience was through racial profiling, whether that experience was through poverty, whether that experience was just through various things that traumatized them early in life. Their self-esteem, and it goes on to conclude here, their self-esteem and the spirit of keeping on were killed. And this contribute to the reason for substantial dropouts. So let's talk about trauma and learning outcomes. In a qualitative study, the study of the color of success, and this was done by Woods Allen, he focused on variation between the performances of Black undergraduate students in Black colleges and universities and those who studied in colleges and universities with predominantly white student body. He focused on the impact of key issues related to college results among these two groups. And he compared the experience of Black students in different environments on the assumption that these students in predominantly white colleges and universities experience unfriendly learning environments. This was what actually he found out. On predominantly white campuses, African American students faced the challenge of alienation, racial discrimination, sense of hostility, and limited integration. He found that on historical Black campuses, African American students tended to be more connected, accepted, and engaged, and to receive extensive support and encouragement. And he noted that what traumatized the African American student on the predominantly white institutional universities was a term he called peer rejection. He stated that trauma and peer rejection are closely related. Therefore, students who face social rejection are highly likely to become traumatized. Now, let's talk a little bit, and it's really getting to really the meat of what I want to deal with, even from a personal standpoint. Trauma and stereotype threat. Now, stereotype threat may be a new word for some, and so I'm going to define it here. Robert Steele defines it this way. Stereotype threat can lead to social inequity for groups such as ethnic minorities and women. According to Steele, stereotype threat is the state of being at risk of conforming as a self-feature to or trait in adverse stereotype about a person's social group. For instance, Black college students are more likely to perform poorly on certain tests, such as standardized ones, compared to white counterparts. However, in instances when race is not emphasized, the same Black students perform better or are equivalent in to their white counterparts. And that was done by a study of comparison that Steele actually completed. It's interesting that his study stated that when one perceives themselves of terms of a membership of a salient group, that there's an increased likelihood that performance will be undermined due to concerns about the possibility of conforming negative stereotypes about that particular group. In this sense, stereotype threat can adversarially affect performance. Tongue got tied. Even as I was going through school, I was always be conscious of wrong answers, speaking out. There was stuff I wanted to say. There's stuff I wanted to ask. But there was like this phobia that I did not want to be that student. I did not want to be labeled as the dumbest person in the class. This study went on to study about how the traumatizing effects of racism often is in the language of stereotype threat. See, within higher education, stereotype threat occurs when negative stereotypes about groups are evident. When students are in situations that can reinforce negative perceptions, whether standardized tests, whether it's classroom discussions, they experience anxiety that can be traumatic and have substantial negative impact on their academic performance. As a result, receiving education in a stereotype Latin classroom environment, young black men may exhibit disidentification, which is psychological disengagement from academic matters and pursuits. And as a protective mechanism against racism and stereotypes, they may just completely shut down. Now, as I'm dealing with the stereotype threat, this is something else that I want to talk on as it relates to African American trauma, because I know firsthand, particularly here in Tennessee, we've been blessed that we have a lot of initiatives that are looking to address issues with African American males and African American men. And often, the question is, why we don't have more participation? Why are they're not signing up to do this? We're offering these program assistance and no one's showing up. Well, there's something interesting about that. And in a study, a schism between injury and care, and these are the experiences of black male victims of violence. This is very interesting here. The research described the challenges of engaging black violent victims with support and care. Now, I'm going to go on to talk about the violence, even on the classroom. I'm going to tie it into it in a second, but this is something that was very enlightening. It says a qualitative method was used to conduct 14 interviews with black males who were victims of gunshot and stab wounds. Researchers were highly surprised by the lack of engagement with social services that were attempting to provide support. All participants described an overwhelming sense of anger in the immediate aftermath of the injury. The authors used the word street culture to describe the response of silence and the mistrust among the victims. Additionally, all interviewees demonstrated a dominant culture of suspicion regarding authorities or healthcare professionals. The mistrust was justified by the close supervision of the police while receiving medical care for their injuries. It came as a surprise to the participants that healthcare personnel, ER doctors, ambulance, emergency workers allowed the police to interrogate them in the middle of receiving treatment. The questioning during medical treatment made some victims feel as if they were already perpetrators or guilty as such, and this heightened their vulnerability and lack of trust. This attests to the vulnerability mindset that African Americans struggle with in any environment that challenges them to accept help. In a study by Les Jacobs, his focus his focus was kind of on the social studies aspect of it. The gentleman that actually did this article, he said that, such as healthcare and counseling, stereotype threat is often branded inside young men's thinking concerning the classroom. Institutional mistrust does not stop at the source of perceived victimization. That mistrust involves not only enforcement, but also organizations, entities that perceive to cause oppression, including the workplace, social communities, and educational environments. The young men have to deal with that perceived threat that some do not want them there, while even going through admissions process or applying for financial aid. The ideologies of these statements have become powerful because it creates a reality in their minds before they even enter the classroom. I don't belong here, or nobody wants me here. Thus, relationships between faculty, professors, and administrators ought to begin at a place of mistrust as opposed to trust. In his study, Robert Woods examined why black men refuse to make contact with teachers, engage in small group discussion or activities, and attend faculty office or provide answers to classroom discussions. His study suggested that participants noted that they desired to fully engage but were apprehensive due to the fear of being perceived as stupid or dumb. And these variables are sometimes the barriers that many of you are facing when you're having to deal with these students. And this is one of the reasons why I just want to give uh, just an understanding of it. And as a result, this impacts the students' motivation and the motivation that they need to actually focus on academic endeavors and to have academic confidence. Trauma and self-efficacy. And I really want to spend some significant time on this because I really believe this is one of the key aspects of, that's crucial to particular African American men being persistent and actually completing school. And a lot of this is from my work firsthand that I've had been privileged and to serve, particular in inner city, in neighborhoods, in organization, in groups, that I can see the effects of the absence of this and how it affects the mindset, the paradigm, the goals to pursue of individuals, particular African American men. So as we get started on this particular focus point of the discussion, I want to define what self-efficacy is. Albert Bandura, he defines self-efficacy as a person's belief in his or her capability to successfully perform a particular task. Together with the goals that people set, self-efficacy is one of the most powerful motivating predictors of how one can perform at almost any endeavor. A person's self-efficacy is a strong dominant of one's effort, persistence, and strategy, as well as one's subsequent training and job performance. Accumulative research and evidence supports positive links between students' academic efficacy and their achievements. In a study by Artino Jr. Called Self-Efficacy and the Students of Color, that self-efficacy in various academic domains chose to engage in tasks that falls the development of their knowledge, skills, and abilities in those areas. It is important, and this is what I want to say, it's important to understand the dynamics of confidence in one's academic abilities when completing any type of study. And these studies that all that I've listed have always found a positive connection between self-efficacy and academic preparedness. Using focus groups, Ihekawaba, he found that Black men and women perceived that confidence in academic performance potentially was a critical facilitator of persistence. He noted that students perceived a lack of confidence in their academic abilities as a hindrance to their achievement and persistence in community college. He also found that high self-efficacy allowed participants to embrace academic challenges, particularly when faculty doubted their abilities. And one of the things too that as we talk related to self-efficacy is self-efficacy is also, it's what keeps you grounded when your environment is saying something contradicting what your dream is saying. It's the confidence that I'm where I should be. I'm doing what I should be doing as it relates to that. Going on with self-efficacy in a study called Black Male College Factors Affecting Their Persistence and Academic Success, Robert Wood examined the difference between personal goals of Black men and other men in community college. Wood argued that Black men are negatively portrayed in the media, for instance, as rapists, gangsters, drug dealers, womanizers, thugs, and these immoral characters of Black men present a false and dehumanizing narrative. And within higher education, the implication of these perceptions are often unconscious. The authors further assert that faculty, staff, and peers may hold stigmatized views of Black men that unknowingly communicate that they are not welcome or do not belong on a college campus. Wood also showed that Black men are motivated to succeed in college by the desire to create better futures for themselves and their family. Additionally, they had aspirations that include serving as role models to others and making their families proud, as well as desire to disprove negative perceptions of Black men. The study explained African American need for self-confidence and motivation. Often, African American men battle a stereotype threat complex that portrays them in a dehumanizing manner that invites a conscious and an unconscious disregard for their well being. In this sense, Black men are committed to fighting stereotype threat. And this study that was done by Robert Wood expands on how trauma can trigger low self esteem among the victims. In another study, Lee and Leonard examined the interrelationship between behavioral, emotional, and cognitive aspects of school engagement. The finding from the study indicated that behavioral and emotional engagement were related biodirectly. School engagement are the intent to which students are involved in, attached, and committed to academic and social activities in school plays a prominent role in preventing academic failure and promoting confidence and influencing a wide range of successful outcomes. Academic achievement and learning outcomes have often been falsely attributed to intellectual focus and classroom engagement. But academic achievement involves the academic activities in which students participate and the amount of time that they spend in those activities. And that was just a breakdown on that. And I want to end the part of trauma and self-efficacy by saying this, that having an increased belief in the usefulness of one's education, program, and degree or coursework will lead to enhanced outcomes. You see, some Black men may be experiencing a conflict whereby their perceptions of the benefits of school conflict with their experiences, perceptions, and immediate needs like food and housing. But again, self-efficacy is what helps bring the grounded needed, the motivation needed to say, hey, I'm going to stand through the storms. I'm going to stand through the tide. A campus of affirmation. Many times we have students on our campus, African American male students. And when I use the term affirmation, I'm not talking about just a pat on the back. Oh, you just did good. We are having students come to our campus that have never been told or affirmed in anything. And I firmly believe that the same way words can bring somebody down, the same words that can demean and dehumanize someone, words can be used to build someone up. And I think one of the things in creating a more inclusive, creating a sense of belonging on our campus, particularly for young African American men, is you have to affirm them. And you affirm them by telling them opposite of the stereotypes, opposite of what may be portrayed in the media, opposite of what their experiences may have been. I would not have been where I am or been blessed to God where I've gotten if somebody would have talked to me where I was. In other words, I was just raw. I didn't even see potential. But no, somebody spoke, I like to use this phrase, to the king that's inside of me. And speaking to the king inside of me awoke me into a world that I could be something greater and beyond the environment in which I came from. I appreciate your time. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you again, Willie. I am checking the chat, and it does not look at this time that we have any questions.
All right. Well, I appreciate Tennessee Board of Regents, TBR, Wendy, Sean, Deanna, everyone that's helped put this on. Um, thank you all for giving. Uh, uh, Did you say the king? The king. Yes, the king. Karen Hudson, I meant the king. Speak to the king inside of me. Thank you all for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Willie.
All right. Bless. Yes, I will. Sean, I'll work out to make sure I can share these slides and talking points with you, and we can distribute them out. Oh, before I go, and I did not do this, or you can email me directly at wthomas01 wthomas01 at clevelandstatecc.edu. That's wthomas01 at clevelandstatecc.edu. Thank you all so much. I just had a question. Wanda Franklin, absolutely. It's just my research has been more focused on the African American males. I'm sure, and there was a ton of information that include African American women as well. And so a lot of it did correlate by way of the same. So I just have not done as extensive research onto that aspect as I have for African American men. All right. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Sean. And I hope everyone have a blessed day. See you in the other sessions.
All right. Thank you again, Willie. And just as a reminder, we'll get those slides out to everybody and the recordings as well. So thank you guys again and look forward to seeing you at the next session.
All right.
All right. Take care.